The stars were quiet that day. No battles, no alarms, just the usual hum of space. But then something changed. A Zalari scout drone was floating near the edge of unclaimed space, scanning for debris and old wreckage from past wars. It had been doing this for weeks with nothing to show for it. Then suddenly it picked up something strange. A massive object appeared out of nowhere. It wasn't there 1 second, and then it was. The drone scanned it quickly, sending data back to the Zalari High Command. The ship was huge, bigger than most capital ships in known space. It looked different too, not curved and smooth like Zalari vessels, not jagged and armored like the Korax, but sharp, angular, and covered in panels that pulsed with unknown energy. There were no markings on the hull, no flags, no symbols, just silence. Back at the Zalari Command Center, officers stared at the images in shock. They ran the scans again and again. No match, no record, no history. "What is this?" asked Commander Veller, his voice low. "We don't know," replied Lieutenant Sierra, eyes wide. "It just showed up. They sent more drones, more sensors, more satellites. Every signal they sent came back the same. This ship was unknown. And then came the power readings. The energy signature was off the charts. This thing has enough power to light up half our fleet," said a tech officer. "Then why hasn't it moved?" No one had an answer. Across the galaxy, word spread fast. An unknown warship had arrived in deep space. No jump trail, no warp distortion. Just there. Fear began to grow. Some thought it was a new weapon from an enemy faction. Others believed it was a trap. A few whispered about gods returning from the void, but none of them knew the truth. Because the truth was simple, the humans had arrived. Inside the warship, all was calm. Captain Daniel Reyes stood on the bridge, looking out the large view screen. At the endless dark, he was a tall man with short hair and tired eyes. He had seen many things in his time, but this was new. "Status?" he asked. "Systems are green," said Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe. She was sitting at her console checking the ship's core output. "Power level stable, shields online, weapons hot." "Good," Reyes said. "How long since we jumped?" 12 minutes, said Communications Officer Marcus Cole. He was young, maybe 30, with a sharp mind and sharper instincts. "We're still picking up local traffic, mostly automated signals, some civilian." Reyes nodded. He turned to Tactical Officer Amanda Bell. "Anything hostile?" Bell shook her head. "Not yet, but we're being watched. Lots of probes nearby. Passive scans only." "They're cautious," Reyes said. "That's good." He walked over to the main display, where a 3D model of the ship rotated slowly. "Welcome to the rest of the universe," he muttered. The U.S. Valiant was Earth's first true warship built for deep space combat. It was the result of years of research, stolen alien tech, and hard work by the brightest minds on the planet. It was fast, smart, and deadly. And now, it was alone in enemy space. "We need to make contact," Reyes said after a pause. "Cole, start broadcasting standard greetings, use universal code." Cole nodded and started typing. "Sending now." The message was simple. "This is the United Earth vessel, Valiant. We come in peace. Respond if you understand." They waited and waited and waited. But no reply came. Only silence. Then suddenly, the sensors pinged. "New contacts," Bell said, eyes narrowing. "Small craft, closing fast." Reyes turned. "Hostiles? Unknown. But they're moving fast." Monroe frowned. "Should we raise shields?" Reyes thought for a moment. "Not yet. Let's see what they want." On the view screen, small dots appeared, 6 in total. They were sleek, dart-like ships clearly designed for speed. Zalari scouts. They circled the Valiant, keeping their distance, scanning every inch of the hull. "They're taking their time," Cole said. "They're scared," Monroe replied. Reyes crossed his arms. "Can't blame them. The scouts didn't fire, didn't send messages, just watched. Then, as quickly as they came, they left." They're gone, Bell said. Tracking them, Reyes asked. Yes. Heading back to their base. Reyes looked at his crew. We've made our first impression, he said. Now we wait to see how they react. Across the galaxy, news of the mysterious ship spread like wildfire. In the Zalari Council chambers, leaders debated furiously. We must act, shouted War Minister Drelak. Act how? Asked Science Minister Yera. We don't even know who they are. They appeared out of nowhere, Drelak said. With power beyond anything we've seen. They could be invaders. Or explorers, Yera countered. You think they're friendly? They didn't respond to our scouts. They didn't shoot either, Yera said. That means something. Elsewhere, on a mining station orbiting a dead moon, a smuggler named Rick caught wind of the rumors. Humans? He said, sipping his drink. Never heard of them. His partner, Jessa, leaned in. Maybe they're from the outer systems. Rick shrugged. If they're real, someone's going to try to talk to him or blow him up. Jessa smirked. Either way, it's going to be interesting. Back on board the Valiant. The tension was high. We've got movement, Bell announced. More ships incoming. Reyes stood up. Hostile? Can't tell yet. But there's a lot of them. The view screen showed dozens of ships approaching. Some big, some small. All unknown. Battle stations, Reyes ordered calmly. Lights dimmed and red lights blinked across the bridge. Shields went up. Weapons powered on. Every person on board held their breath. Then, finally, a signal came through. Not visual, not audio. Text. Simple. Cole, identify yourself. Cole read it aloud. They finally spoke. Reyes stepped forward. Respond. Cole typed. United Earth Vessel, Valiant. We are explorers. We mean no harm. They waited. Another message came. Your presence is unauthorized. Leave this space. Reyes smiled slightly. Well, that's direct. Monroe raised an eyebrow. Should we go? No, Reyes said. We're here to learn, not run. Cole sent another message. We wish to speak, to learn, to understand. The response was delayed this time. When it came, it was shorter. Prepare for inspection. Reyes nodded. All right, let's see what they've got. As the alien ships closed in, the Valiant remained still, waiting, watching, ready. The alien ships circled the USS Valiant like predators testing their prey. They were sleek and fast, built for agility rather than brute force. The largest among them was a cruiser, clearly the command vessel. Inside the Valiant, Captain Daniel, Reyes stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the view screen. Status? He asked. Tactical Officer Amanda Bell checked her console. They're locking weapons, not firing yet. Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe frowned. That's not exactly comforting. Communications Officer Marcus Cole looked up from his station. They just sent another message. Reyes nodded. Read it. Cole pressed a button, and the translated text appeared on the main display. You are in restricted space. Power. Down your engines and prepare for inspection. Silence filled the room. They don't sound very friendly, Monroe muttered. Reyes took a breath. We didn't come all this way to surrender. He turned to Cole. Send a reply. Polite, but firm. Cole typed quickly. United Earth Vessel, Valiant. We are explorers, not invaders. We mean no harm. Request peaceful contact. They waited. No reply came. Instead, one of the smaller alien ships broke formation and fired a single warning shot. Bright green energy streaking past the Valiant's bow. A clear threat. Bell reacted instantly. Shields up. Evasive maneuvers, Reyes ordered. The Valiant responded with machine-like precision. Thrusters fired, and the ship twisted slightly, avoiding any direct hit. On the bridge, alarms blared. Weapons hot? Reyes asked. Bell nodded. Yes, sir. Monroe leaned forward. Captain, we need to decide now. Do we fight or do we run? Reyes stared at the alien fleet surrounding them. He knew what they were doing. Testing. Probing. Seeing how far they could push before humans pushed back. His jaw tightened. "No," he said finally. "We don't run, and we don't start a war, but we won't be bullied either." He turned to Belle. "Fire a single railgun round. Target that frigate that fired first." She blinked. "Sir? You heard me. 1 shot. Make it count." Belle hesitated for only a second before tapping commands into her console. A deep hum filled the ship as the magnetic accelerator charged. Then, boom. A dull vibration ran through the Valiant as the railgun fired. Outside, a metal slug the size of a car screamed toward the offending alien frigate at hypersonic speed. There was no time to react. The slug struck the ship dead center. In an instant, the frigate vanished in a ball of fire. The explosion lit up the dark void like a miniature sun. Silence returned. Absolute silence. Every crew member on the bridge stared at the view screen. Even Belle looked stunned. "Well," Monroe whispered, "that's one way to make a point." Reyes crossed his arms. "Let's see how they respond." Back on the alien command ship, chaos erupted. Alarms screamed across the bridge. "The frigate is gone!" shouted a panicked officer. Commander Veller stood frozen, staring at the image of the human warship. It hadn't moved. It hadn't raised more shields. It had simply fired once, and wiped out an entire enemy vessel in less than a second. "What was that weapon?" someone asked. "Unknown," replied Science Officer Sierra. "But it was powerful." Veller clenched his fists. "They destroyed one of our own. That's an act of war." Sierra shook her head. "Or a warning." "A warning?" Veller snapped. "They just vaporized a ship in front of us." Sierra met his gaze calmly. "And yet they haven't fired again. They're waiting." Veller turned away, thinking hard. On the view screen, the Valiant still floated in space, unmoving, waiting, watching. "They're not afraid," Sierra said softly. "They know what they can do." Back on board the Valiant, the tension was high. Cole checked the comms. They're sending frantic messages, probably calling for backup. Belle scanned the sensors. "Looks like they're pulling back." Monroe let out a breath. "Well, that's something." Reyes watched the alien fleet retreat slowly. "They weren't expecting that." "No kidding," Monroe said. "1 shot, 1 kill, no hesitation." Reyes turned to his crew. "That was a message. We don't want war, but if they push us, we'll defend ourselves." Monroe nodded. "So what now?" Reyes looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "Now we wait. See if they send diplomats or armies." Across the galaxy, word spread fast. The mysterious new species, the humans, had arrived, and they were dangerous. In the Zalari council chambers, panic grew. "This is madness," War Minister Drelak roared. "They have weapons unlike anything." "We've seen. If they ever decide to attack, they might not," Science Minister Yera interrupted. "They only fired once, and only after being fired upon," Drelak scoffed. "That doesn't matter. They showed us what they can do, and now they're watching." Yera sighed. "Maybe that's the point. Elsewhere, on a trade station orbiting a dying star, a smuggler named Rick listened to the latest reports." "So what you're saying is," Rick said, leaning against the bar, "a bunch of aliens tried to scare off these humans and got one of their ships blown up in 10 seconds. Jessa finished. Rick grinned. "Damn." Jessa sipped her drink. "Yeah. Sounds like we should stay the hell away from them." Rick chuckled. "Unless we can sell them something." Jessa rolled her eyes. "You'd try to sell ice to a snowman." Rick shrugged. "Hey, if they've got firepower like that, they've probably got money too." Back on board the Valiant, life continued. The alien fleet kept its distance. No further attacks, but no peace either. Reyes called a meeting in the war room. Around the table sat his top officers: Belle, Monroe, Cole, and Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Helen Shaw. "We need to figure out what comes next," Reyes said. Cole spoke first. "They're scared. That much is obvious. Monroe nodded. And confused. They don't know what to make of us. Belle folded her arms. They'll regroup. Maybe bring more ships, or maybe they'll try diplomacy. Dr. Shaw, usually quiet, added, if they do send diplomats, we need to be ready. Not just for politics, but for biology, language, culture. Reyes smiled slightly. Good point. Cole tapped his tablet. I've been scanning their transmissions. Some of them are arguing about us. Arguing how? Monroe asked. Cole read aloud. Some think we're a threat, others think we might be allies. Reyes leaned back. So there's division. That's good, Belle said. Means we can work with it. Monroe smirked. Just don't blow anyone else up while we're trying to talk. Reyes chuckled. Noted. Hours passed, then finally a signal came through. This time it wasn't a demand, it was a request. Requesting communication. Peaceful intent. Cole looked up. They're reaching out. Reyes stood. Then let's talk. He walked over to the comms panel. Open a channel. A moment later, the face of a Zalari appeared on the screen. Tall, pale skin, large black eyes. The alien introduced himself. I am Commander Veller of the Zalari Defense Fleet. Reyes nodded. Captain Daniel Reyes of the United Earth vessel. Of Valiant. Veller studied him carefully. You destroyed one of our ships. Reyes didn't flinch. Your ship fired first. Veller paused, then nodded. True. Reyes leaned forward. We came here to explore, to learn, not to fight. Veller's expression was unreadable. Then perhaps we should talk. Reyes smiled slightly. Gladly. As the two leaders began their conversation, the galaxy held its breath. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The peace didn't last long. Just 2 days after the first diplomatic contact, tensions flared again. The Zalari Council had been divided. Some wanted to talk with the humans, others saw them as a threat that needed to be dealt with before it was too late. Commander Veller had tried to keep things calm. He believed the humans were not enemies, but he was overruled. The decision was made in secret. A massive strike force was assembled near a deep space jump point. Over 50 warships, including heavy cruisers and battle carriers, were ordered to destroy the USS Valiant before Earth could send more ships. They called it a preemptive strike. But to Captain Daniel Reyes, it would feel like an ambush. Inside the Valiant, life had started to return to normal. After the tense first contact, the crew had relaxed slightly. They were still alert, but no longer on full combat readiness. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the stars drift slowly past the view screen. We've picked up some strange signals, Communications Officer Marcus Cole said, frowning, at his console. Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe looked up from her tablet. Strange how? Cole tapped a few keys and a map appeared on the main display. Red dots blinked far off their current position. They're gathering, Cole explained. Ships, a lot of them. Reyes narrowed his eyes. How many? More than 50, Cole replied. Maybe 60, moving fast. Tactical Officer Amanda Bell checked her sensors. They're armed, and they're heading this way. Monroe cursed under her breath. That's not a diplomatic fleet. Bell turned to Reyes. They're coming for us. Reyes clenched his jaw. Then we won't wait for them to get here. He turned to the crew. Battle stations now. Lights dimmed across the ship, replaced by red emergency lighting. Alarms blared, shields went up, weapons powered on, engines roared to life. The Valiant was ready for war. Across space, the Zalari fleet moved silently through the void. Commander Veller sat on the bridge of the command cruiser, Virex. He watched the fleet move into position with a heavy heart. This is wrong. Science Officer Sira whispered beside him. Veller didn't reply. He knew she was right. But orders were orders, and the High Command had made themselves clear. Eliminate the human threat before it spreads. Prepare weapons, Veller said quietly. "Aye, sir," came the response. Outside the windows the enemy waited, or so they thought. Back on board the Valiant, Reyes studied the incoming data. "They're trying to surround us," Bell said, pointing at the tactical display. Monroe frowned. "They think we'll run." Reyes shook his head. "No. They think we'll die." He looked around the bridge. "We're not going to give them the chance." He turned to Bell. "We take the fight to them. Hit hard. Hit fast. Don't give them time to react." She nodded. "Yes, sir." Cole asked, "Do we try to warn them first?" Reyes hesitated. Then finally he said, "Send one message. Just one. Let them know we don't want war." Cole sent the signal. "United Earth vessel, Valiant, we do not seek conflict. Turn back now." There was no reply, only silence. Reyes exhaled. "Then we fight." The battle began before dawn, if there was such a thing in space. The Valiant jumped forward at full speed, engines roaring. It burst through the outer edge of the Zalari formation like a hammer through glass. Before the aliens could react, the Valiant opened fire. Railgun rounds screamed through the void, striking enemy ships with terrifying accuracy. Missiles launched in controlled salvos, each one guided by AI targeting systems that calculated thousands of variables per second. The first wave of Zalari frigates exploded within seconds. One ship tried to raise shields, but it was already too late. A railgun slug tore straight through its hull, ripping it apart. Another tried to flee, but a missile caught it mid-turn, obliterating it in a flash of light. Chaos spread through the Zalari fleet. "Target locked on command cruiser," Bell reported. "Should I fire?" Reyes looked at the screen. The Virex was trying to rally the fleet, but it was too late. "No," Reyes said. "We don't kill their commander unless we have to." Instead, he pointed at another cruiser nearby. "Take out that ship. Cut off their retreat." Bell obeyed instantly. The Valiant fired again. The targeted cruiser vanished in a massive explosion. With that, the Zalari fleet broke. Panic took over. Ships scattered in all directions. Some surrendered, others floated. None fought back. Within 10 minutes, the battle was over. On the Virex, Commander Veller stared at the wreckage floating in space. His fleet was gone, destroyed or scattered. The humans hadn't just defended themselves, they had crushed the entire attack force in less than 10 minutes. Sierra stared at the view screen. "They're monsters." Veller shook his head. "No, they're soldiers." He turned to the comms officer. "Send a message, all frequencies. Tell everyone what happened." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. "The humans are not our friends. They are not our allies. They are something else entirely. If you face them in battle, you will lose." Back on board the Valiant, the crew gathered on the bridge. Monroe let out a slow breath. "Well, that was intense." Bell smirked. "You okay?" Monroe rolled her eyes. "I'm fine. Just glad we're not dead." Cole looked at the sensor readout. Most of the enemy fleet ran. Some are surrendering. Reyes stood quietly, looking at the stars beyond the viewport. "We didn't start this war," he said finally. "But we finished it." Monroe frowned. "You think they'll try again?" Reyes nodded. "Eventually." Bell crossed her arms. "Then we'll be ready." Cole tapped his tablet. "Already getting messages from other alien factions. Some are scared. Others, curious." Monroe raised an eyebrow. "Curious? About what?" Cole shrugged. "About us." Reyes smiled slightly. "Let them watch. Let them wonder." He turned to the crew. "But if anyone else tries to hurt us..." He paused. "We finish it." Across the galaxy, the shockwave of the battle spread. In the Zalari Council chambers, leaders argued furiously. "They destroyed half our fleet," War Minister Drelak shouted. "And barely lost a scratch," Science Minister Yera added calmly. Drelak glared at her. "This proves they're dangerous." Yera shook her head. "No, it proves they're powerful and smart." Elsewhere, on a trade station orbiting a dying star, Rick and Jessa listened to the latest reports. Rick whistled. Damn, that's brutal. Jessa sipped her drink. So much for diplomacy. Rick grinned. Guess we better not piss them off. As the Valiant drifted in space, the stars remained silent. But the galaxy was watching, and now they knew. Earth was here, and they did not come to play. The battle was over, but the war for hearts and minds had just begun. Across the galaxy, news of the Valiant's victory spread like fire in dry wind. Every species reacted differently. Some feared humanity, others were curious, and a few, very quietly, began to see Earth as a possible ally. On board the Valiant, Captain Daniel Reyes sat in his quarters, staring at a star map on his tablet. Red markers showed where alien fleets were regrouping. Yellow dots marked diplomatic offers. Green ones were neutral or unknown. He exhaled slowly. "This is getting complicated," he muttered. A knock came at the door. "Come in." The door slid open and Communications Officer Marcus Cole stepped inside. "We've got new messages," Cole said. Reyes looked up. "More?" Cole nodded. "Several factions want to talk. Some are scared, others, not so much." Reyes sighed. "Let me guess, the Zalari aren't happy." Cole smirked. "You could say that." He tapped his own tablet and a message appeared. "Earth vessel, Valiant. You have committed an act of aggression. We demand answers." Reyes read it without emotion. "They're still mad about the fleet we destroyed." Cole shrugged. "Can you blame them? We wiped out half their navy in 10 minutes. Reyes stood up. "We didn't start that fight, and we gave them a chance to walk away." Cole folded his arms. "Still doesn't make us popular." Reyes walked toward the bridge. "Then we'll have to change that." Inside the Valiant's command center, the mood was tense but controlled. Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe leaned over her console, checking power levels. Tactical Officer Amanda Bell reviewed sensor logs from the recent battle. Medical Officer Dr. Helen Shaw was already preparing for more casualties, just in case. Reyes stepped onto the bridge. "Status?" he asked. Bell answered first. "We've picked up several incoming ships, not hostile, at least not yet." Monroe glanced up. "They're sending diplomats." Cole nodded. 3 different groups, one from the Zalari, one from the Virex Union, and another from the Ashtari Confederacy. Reyes raised an eyebrow. "That's unexpected." Cole smiled slightly. "Yeah. Turns out some of them want to talk instead of fight." Reyes thought, for a moment. "All right. Let's hear what they have to say." The first to arrive was the Zalari delegation. Their ship was sleek, silver, and covered in symbols of peace. It docked carefully with the Valiant, and after security checks, the visitors were allowed on board. Commander Veller led the group. He hadn't spoken since the battle, but now he stood face to face with Captain Reyes once again. "I did not expect to see you again," Reyes said calmly. Veller studied him. "I did not expect to be here either." Reyes gestured to the conference room. "Then let's talk." Inside, the 2 men sat across from each other. "You destroyed our fleet," Veller said bluntly. Reyes met his gaze. "You attacked us." Veller didn't flinch. "Because we feared you." Reyes leaned forward. "Fear isn't a reason to start a war." Veller hesitated. Then he sighed. "No, but it makes people do stupid things." Reyes nodded. "Like attacking a ship that can wipe out your entire force in 10 minutes. Veller gave a small smile. "Point taken." There was a pause. Then Veller added, "Some in the council believe you must be stopped before you grow stronger." Reyes frowned. "And what do you believe?" Veller looked him in the eye. "I believe you are not our enemy. Not yet." Reyes studied him for a long moment. Then he said, "Good. Because we don't want enemies. We want peace." Veller nodded, slowly. "Then perhaps there is hope." Later, the Ashtari delegation arrived. They were tall, thin, with pale blue skin and glowing eyes. Their leader, a woman named Kirel, spoke softly but confidently. She introduced herself to Reyes personally. "I am Envoy Kirel of the Ashtari Confederacy," she said. "We come in peace." Reyes offered a hand. "Captain Daniel Reyes. Welcome. Aboard." Kirel shook his hand gently. "Your kind is fascinating." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "Fascinating how?" Kirel smiled. "You fight like warriors, but speak like diplomats. You destroy enemies, but offer mercy." Reyes chuckled. "We're full of surprises." Kirel looked around the ship. "Your technology is advanced, your weapons powerful, but it is your spirit I find most interesting." Reyes crossed his arms. "What do you mean?" Kirel met his gaze. "You do not seek conquest, you seek understanding." Reyes smiled slightly. "Maybe that's why we're still standing." Kirel nodded. "Perhaps." Over the next few days, the Valiant hosted multiple delegations. Some came with gifts, others with questions. One group, the Virex Union, offered trade. They wanted human weapons and ships in exchange for resources and information. Another faction, the Ralthi, sent spies disguised as diplomats. They were caught quickly and escorted off the ship. Tensions remained high, but something had changed. The humans were no longer seen only as threats. Now they were also seen as potential allies, even rivals, and that made all the difference. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Angela Ward watched the reports with growing concern. She sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by advisors. "They're making friends," one of them said. "More than we expected." Ward nodded. "Too many friends might be dangerous." Another advisor frowned. "Dangerous how?" Ward looked out the window. "If too many species rely on us, we become responsible for them. And if we fail, we lose everything." Her chief of staff asked, "Do you think we should recall the Valiant?" Ward shook her head. "No. We need to keep learning. Keep watching, Hinal." Turn to the group. "But prepare. If diplomacy fails, we may have to fight again." Back on board the Valiant, life continued. Marcus Cole spent time talking with Kirel, learning about Ashtari culture and history. Lisa Monroe worked with Zalari engineers to share limited tech knowledge, nothing too dangerous, just enough to build trust. Amanda Bell trained with visiting guardsmen from various species, testing combat styles and tactics. Even Dr. Shaw found herself helping alien medics with injuries they couldn't treat. The crew was changing, growing, learning, and so was the galaxy. One evening, Reyes stood alone on the observation deck, looking. Out at the stars, Kirel joined him silently. "You are not like other leaders," she said. Reyes smiled slightly. "I try not to be." Kirel looked at him. "You could rule this galaxy if you wanted." Reyes shook his head. "We don't want to rule. We want to explore, to learn, to protect." Kirel studied him. "Then perhaps you are the kind of leader this galaxy needs." Reyes looked at her. "You think so?" Kirel nodded. "Yes, but not everyone will agree." Reyes sighed. "I know." He looked out into space. "And I'm afraid some won't give us a choice." The peace was fragile. Everyone on the USS Valiant knew it. Captain Daniel Reyes stood on the bridge watching the stars through the large view screen. He had seen war. He had fought in battles that left scars, on ships, on people, and on history. But this was different. This wasn't just about one ship or one battle. It was about Earth's place in a galaxy full of old powers, old rivalries and old fears, and now those fears were growing. "Captain," said Communications Officer Marcus Cole from his station, "we've got a new signal." Reyes turned. "From who?" Cole tapped a few keys, and the translated message appeared on the main display. "Earth vessel, Valiant. A second human ship has entered our space." Silence filled the room. Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe looked up from her console. "A second ship? That's fast." Tactical Officer Amanda Bell frowned. "We didn't send another ship." Reyes crossed his arms. "No, but someone must have." Cole checked the data again. "Signal matches Earth military frequency." It's real. Reyes nodded slowly. Then we need to find out what they're doing here. He turned to Bell. Can you track them? Bell tapped into the sensors. Yes, they're still at the edge of known space, not moving yet. Reyes thought for a moment. We should make contact. See what they want. Monroe raised an eyebrow. You think it's friendly? Reyes shrugged. We'll find out soon enough. Across the galaxy, word of the second human ship spread quickly. On Zalari command stations, leaders argued over what it meant. In Ashtari trade worlds, merchants whispered about Earth's growing power. On the Ralthi homeworld, generals watched, with cold eyes and quiet minds. And in secret places far from the light of diplomacy, plans were already being made. Plans that would change everything. Back on board the Valiant, Captain Reyes gathered his senior officers in the war room. Around the table sat Bell, Monroe, Cole, Medical Officer Dr. Helen Shaw, and even Kirill, the Ashtari envoy who had grown close to the crew. We need to figure out what comes next, Reyes said. Cole spoke first. The second ship is broadcasting diplomatic codes. Says it's carrying a delegation from Earth. Monroe leaned forward. That's good, right? Cole hesitated. Maybe. But why send diplomats now after what happened with the Zalari fleet? Bell folded her arms. Unless someone back home thinks we're getting too deep into alien politics. Reyes nodded. Possible. We've made friends, but not everyone wanted us to. Kirill studied the group carefully. You do not trust your own people? Reyes gave a small smile. Not always. Politics can be as dangerous as war. Kirill tilted her head. Then perhaps I should go with you when you meet this delegation. Monroe raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? Kirill smiled. I wish to see how humans deal with each other. Reyes chuckled. All right, you're welcome aboard. Hours later, the Valiant jumped to the edge of explored space. There, waiting in the dark, was the second human ship. It was smaller than the Valiant, sleeker, built more for travel than combat. The USS Liberty. As the two ships linked up, a secure channel opened. Reyes stepped onto the comms line. This is Captain Reyes of the Valiant. Who am I speaking with? A voice came through, calm, confident, and familiar. This is Ambassador James Holloway of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. I come with orders from President Ward. Reyes narrowed his eyes. Orders? Holloway's voice was smooth. Yes, to begin formal talks with the alien species, to build alliances, and to prevent further conflict. Reyes exchanged glances with Monroe and Bell. Sounds like a good idea, he said carefully. So why are you really here? There was a pause. Then Holloway replied, to keep you in check. Reyes didn't flinch. I see, he said simply. Then you'd better come aboard. The meeting was tense. Ambassador Holloway arrived, with a small team of diplomats and security agents. He was tall, clean-cut, and carried himself like a man used to getting his way. He shook Reyes's hand, but there was no warmth in it. I'm glad to finally meet you, Captain, Holloway said. Reyes smiled slightly. Same. I hear you're here to keep me in check. Holloway didn't deny it. President Ward wants to ensure our presence in the galaxy remains peaceful. Reyes gestured to the war room. Then let's talk. The discussion lasted hours. Holloway laid out the plan. Formal treaties, controlled trade, limited technology, sharing. Reyes listened, then asked one question. What happens if someone attacks us again? Holloway paused. Then we defend ourselves, but we don't strike first. Reyes nodded. Good. Then we agree on something. Holloway looked around. The room. I also heard you've been hosting alien diplomats. Reyes confirmed it. Yes, we've been building relationships. Holloway frowned slightly. Without permission from Earth Command. Reyes met his gaze. We're soldiers, not politicians. But we know survival means making friends. Holloway studied him for a long moment. Then he said, Perhaps you're right. He turned to his assistant. Send the message, let President Ward know we're ready to proceed. But not everyone wanted peace. Even as the Liberty prepared to leave, reports began coming in. Strange movements near the outer systems, unidentified ships gathering in hidden space, and most worrying of all, a powerful energy signature unlike anything recorded before. Captain, Bell said, looking at her console, you need to see this. Reyes walked over. On the screen, a massive fleet was forming beyond the mapped borders of known space. Hundreds of ships, all unknown, all hostile. Monroe frowned. Where did these come from? Cole checked the readings. They're not broadcasting any signals, no identification. Bell's voice was low. They're hiding. Reyes stared at the screen. Then they're preparing for war. Carell stepped closer. This is not the work of the Zalari or the Virex Union. Reyes nodded. Someone else is watching us. Cole asked quietly, who? Nobody answered, because nobody knew. Later that night, Reyes stood alone on the observation deck. Kirill joined him silently. You feel it too, she said. Reyes nodded. Something's coming. Kirill looked at the stars. The galaxy is changing, and not everyone will welcome it. Reyes sighed. We came here to explore, to learn, but now we're part of something bigger. Kirill met his gaze. Then you must decide what kind of leader you will be. Reyes smiled slightly. One who protects, one who fights when he must, but never one who starts a war. Kirill nodded. Then may the stars guide you. She turned to leave. Reyes stayed behind, staring into the void. Out there in the darkness, something waited, something big, and soon, it would come.